Bearded dragons are the most common lizard species seen in veterinary practice. They are also America's #1 companion lizard. And joining us in our Forever Family today, we have Carrie Foss, Assistant Professor of Veterinary and Clinical Medicine at the University of Illinois, as well as Brad Sutton, Professor of Bioengineering at the University of Illinois. You're also with the Beckman Institute. We have to throw that in there. So Beckman Institute, U of I Veterinary Medicine, kind of collaborating on this fun new project. Why are we studying the brains of bearded dragons?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and it essentially stemmed from, back last year, a couple years ago. We have a very, very proliferative zoological medicine service, and they actually had an owned bearded dragon that had neurologic signs, and we took a look at it, and me being a neurologist, I'm like, well, you can MR it, and we can see what we find. And they wanted to go forward with doing the MRI, and then ZooMed came and was like, well, can you help us interpret this MRI? And I was like, sure, but I don't know what I'm looking at, because there are not MRI atlases of specifically bearded dragon brains. There are ones that exist on other lizard species, but none on the bearded dragon.
So this is the first of its kind, pretty much.
Yeah, it kind of prompted my wheels started spinning in my brain, and I talked to Krista Keller, who's one of our collaborators.
Okay, I'm guessing that's the brain.
Yes, that's one of the brains that we've scanned, and that's just the brain by itself, so we had to use special technology there to remove all the skull and everything else, and just
what is this?
Yeah, this is a 3D view of the bearded dragon, and so you can see a couple of different projections there, but we decided to get a view where you could see its really wide jaw and see how small the brain is right in between the two big eyes.
Okay, I finally have spotted the eyes since you said that. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm looking at here. We actually have video of what an MRI, I believe, how that process looks.
Right.
Hopefully we can see that here.
Yeah, and
kind of walk us through this.
Yep, and so this is looking at the brain, and I'll let Carrie tell you what we're seeing here.
Yeah, so now we're right in about the middle of the brain, and that little kind of gray-white structure is the brain itself. So you can also see how small their brain is. I mean, if you look at Drake here, the brain's probably the size of my thumb. And so another issue we have with a species that's so small is being able to get high-quality MRI images, because it's much smaller than a dog or cat that we can easily scan down at VetMed.
And then is this now the 3D?
This is the 3D structural processing of their brain. So that long stalk is actually their olfactory lobe, and then it's attached to a stalk. So very different from what people have. We really don't have a really big olfactory lobe. Dogs and cats have a much smaller one. But that was an interesting thing for one of the many things that we found on here that I was like, well, that's pretty interesting looking.
Well, and I think it's pretty interesting what the actual MRI, I guess, tool is, which you have here.
Yeah, so imaging a small animal like this in an MRI scanner is really challenging. The MRI scanner typically in the clinic is the same one that you or I would get in if we went to the hospital to get scanned in, so that's a really large system. So what we have to do is we have to have an antenna or a coil that's quite small and matched to the object we're trying to image, so in this case a really small bearded dragon, and we need to have a nice antenna that sits really close so we can get really highly sensitive images, so we can get really high resolution images. We can see down to 1/4 of a millimeter in order to be able to get an image of the brain. So no offense to Drake, but the very small brain that's in there. So.
Oh my goodness. Well, and here we're looking at a graphic of a bearded dragon. Why is this study important? Why does this matter?
It matters because there's really not that many imaging atlases on our smaller, more exotic species. And so, I mean, I would love to image further additional exotic species just to have an idea. And I think as they become more popular, certainly, clearly we've demonstrated they have brains, and so they can suffer from neurologic conditions just like people can. They can get vertigo, they can have seizures, they can get brain tumors, things like that.
And that's kind of when they would need
That's when they would need, yes, when they present with neurologic signs, and there's a concern for something, going on in their brain, that's when they would need an MRI to determine what is the cause of their clinical signs, and is there anything we can do for that, for the condition that they have.
Well, such cool technology that we are coming up with there. At the university, and what a fun collaboration, I'm sure, between your two departments there, and so cool. And You identify 9 anatomic structures in the bearded dragon brain. Is that a lot?
There's a lot more, but those are the big ones that we can see. So.
Okay, well, further studies to come, I'm sure, and we appreciate you coming, sharing Drake with us here and all of the cool things happening. If you want to learn more about this study, we'll connect you over at CILiving.tv. Thank you so much.